The best news of the Ukrainian election, a masterclass of trolling from Zelensky, Venezuela as a dilemma for Trump and the future of coffee, the topics of the review of the international press. Voters are so tired that they can elect a man who played a president on TV, the newspaper writes, referring to the leader of the popularity of presidential candidates, actor Vladimir Zelensky. From this point of view, we can say that democracy flourishes in the country, unlike its neighbors in the former Soviet Union, Russia and Belarus, adds The Economist. The uncertainty of the outcome of the race also indicates dissatisfaction with the Ukrainian situation in the country. Although certain reforms after the protests on the Maidan in 2014 managed to conduct corruption and partisanship of politicians has not disappeared, the newspaper writes. The other two leaders of the rating of the incumbent President Petro Poroshenko and the leader of the party, Batkivshina, the publication describes the system policies and adds that it is difficult to find in Ukrainian politics person senior for them. Media have repeatedly drawn parallels between Vladimir Zelensky and the American President Donald Trump, although he prefers the comparison with Ronald Reagan, the newspaper writes. And this time the situation is somewhat different. Probably not in history a situation where the candidate was more difficult to separate from his image and the character he plays on screen, writes The Independent. The newspaper reminds that on the eve aired a new season of the TV series Servant of the People, which plays Zelensky national president, and the storyline and the key characters openly remind the Ukrainian politicians. Unbeatable campaign Zelensky is that his TV character is a good guy, which unites the nation and has more moderate views, says The Independent. If the president will Zelensky, it is possible that these elections will open a new page not only in Ukrainian but also in world history, concludes The Independent. The President of the United States Donald Trump is facing a dilemma, which may result in a test for foreign policy, which he spends to oppose Russian interference in the affairs of Venezuela, or to maintain the status quo. In his article in Washington Post, journalist Verd Zakaria reflects on this stand. Finally, the American president against his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin and Venezuela will be the reason that forced Trump to end the policy of appeasement towards Russia. The White House has made it clear that Washington no longer thinks of Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, recognizing opposition leader Juan Guaido his successor. In other words, Putin fully supports Maduro. Partly he does this in order to help hold the lie and because it adds to the prestige of Russia on international oil markets. And above all, Putin is so effective because it plays to the benefit of the leading goals of his foreign policy, the formation of the global anti-American coalition countries that undermine us goals, writes the author. Putin's actions seem to have to make fun of the us, a country that is about 200 years ago, proclaimed the doctrine, which warns other states from interfering in the affairs of the Western Hemisphere. Soon coffee for you may javern time, not a barista, a robot, writes The Economist in an article talking about dining in Shanghai, where this process is almost fully automated. The visitors ratio make the order on their smartphones. Then the robot grinds the coffee beans and then prepares espresso and other coffee drinks. At the final stage picks up the drink the waiter and sends it to the client. Work barista already become a trend, the newspaper writes. Other places of Shanghai, which serves coffee, too, began to abandon the staff, giving preference to cars. The Economist writes that the main problem faced barista is that each type of coffee bean requires different amounts of water, which determines the quality of the drink. The robot uses predefined parameters for what it can be called just perfect.